You see, for 25 years, I've been the victim. Okay? I have been the victim of an abusive relationship. No. You have lost your time to talk.
If it's happening in professional wrestling, we're breaking it down. The matches, the moments, the rumors, and yes, even the hot takes. This is Pro Wrestling Focus. No nonsense, no wasted motion, just pure wrestling talk. Now, here's your host, Cody Springer.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Pro Wrestling Focus. And before we get into this week's episode, I felt like I needed to talk about something, address something real quick. I don't cover everything that happens on Raw and SmackDown, and I definitely don't talk about every single wrestling news story that pops up. And you know what? That's by design. Look, I love pro wrestling, but not everything that happens on Raw and SmackDown is worth talking about. Sometimes there are entire segments that are just filler, matches that exist just to exist, backstage interviews that go nowhere, or goofy comedy bits. Now, if there's a week where WWE absolutely nails it, and the show is stacked from top to bottom, then yeah, we'll break it down. We'll break down the whole thing. But most of the time, I rather focus on the big moments that matter, the stuff that actually moves storylines forward, has real impact, or is just flat out entertaining. And don't even get me started on wrestling news sites. Man, the amount of clickbait garbage that gets published is ridiculous. Half the time, you'll see some nonsense like Braun Strowman's McDonald's order in Barcelona. You won't believe what he got. Or Sami Zayn and his wife spotted on a double date with Kieran Culkin. First of all, why do I care? Am I supposed to analyze whether Braun is a Big Mac guy or a McNuggets guy? And as far as Sami Zayn hanging out with Kieran Culkin, good for him. I hope they had a great time. But does that actually matter when it comes to WWE programming? No. The truth is, these sites are desperate for clicks. And the worst part, a lot of these news articles aren't even written by actual people anymore. They're AI-generated garbage designed to look like real journalism while pumping out content at lightning speed with zero quality control. That's why you get these nonsense stories with misleading headlines, recycled Twitter rumors, and articles that are just basically sources say without any actual sources. So yeah, I don't waste my time with that. And I'm definitely not going to waste your time with it either. When I cover something, it's because I think it's actually worth discussing. If it's a major storyline development, a huge return, a backstage situation that actually affects what we see on TV, then I'll talk about it. But if it's just empty filler, clickbait nonsense, or some wrestler's fast food order, yeah, I'm going to pass on that one. All right, let's talk about what happened on SmackDown this past Friday. We're going to talk about Charlotte Flair and the whole Tiffany Stratton brawl, the continuation of their lead up to WrestleMania. So yeah, there was a post-match brawl. Charlotte Flair had a match with B-Fab. Charlotte got the win. And then Tiffany Stratton got involved. And man, I get what they were going for. Tiffany was supposed to come out looking fired up, desperate to get revenge for last week's attack, but the way they executed this, in my opinion, did more harm than good. First off, the sheer number of security and WWE officials out there was excessive. A pull-apart brawl is supposed to feel chaotic, raw, and uncontrollable. But when you have that many people trying to separate two wrestlers and they still can't do it, it makes everyone look weak. It's like WWE wants to create the illusion of an all-out war, but instead, they end up making their talent and staff look ineffective. If it takes that many people to hold back two women and they're still breaking free, then what's the point of security? It just kills the believability of the moment. Then there's Tiffany's big moments, the two dives. And this is where the execution really hurt the segment. The first dive from the top rope missed Charlotte entirely and took out security instead. The second one from the stage had the same problem. Charlotte barely got touched, yet the segment continued as if Tiffany had wiped her out. Moments like these are supposed to add intensity to the feud, but when the impact isn't there, it just exposes the segment as overly choreographed rather than organic. I understand the intent behind this. Tiffany had to respond to Charlotte's attack from last week, and they needed a moment to make her look strong, but this wasn't the way to do it. A simple, more physical pull apart where security actually struggles to control them would have worked better. Instead, this overproduced approach made the whole thing look forced and ultimately ineffective. The crowd was into it, which is a good sign that people are invested in the feud, but from a critical standpoint, this wasn't the kind of segment that adds real heat. It felt too overdone, and instead of making Tiffany look like a real threat to Charlotte, it made the whole thing look more like a stunt gone wrong. Going into WrestleMania, they need to get this back on track. This should be a marquee feud for the women's division, but moments like this hurt its credibility rather than enhance it. If they want this match to have real anticipation, they need to lean into more grounded, impactful storytelling rather than relying on big spots that don't land. Literally and figuratively. All right, let's break down the WWE Tag Team Championship match. Street Profits defeated DIY to win the Tag Team Championships. And yeah, this entire tag team storyline has played out for several weeks, involving DIY, Street Profits, Motor City Machine Guns, Los Garza, and Pretty Deadly. While I wouldn't call it the most exciting story that WWE has ever told, it did have some interesting developments along the way. There were shifting alliances, interesting moments, and some intrigue to keep things moving. But now after SmackDown, it feels like we either reached a final stop or just another major chapter in the storyline, because the Street Profits are officially back on top as your new WWE Tag Team Champions. And let me say, it's about damn time. I had to double check when their last reign was, because it's crazy to think that Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins hadn't held gold in 4 years. These two are one of the most charismatic and exciting tag teams WWE has had in years, yet somehow they kept getting passed over while other teams came and went. Now, let's talk about Montez Ford for a second. Look, I know everyone has been saying for a while now that he's got everything that it takes to be a single star. And yeah, he absolutely does. This guy is a walking highlight reel. He's got charisma for days. And if WWE pulls the trigger, it could be a major player in the singles division. But here's the thing. He doesn't want to break up with Angelo Dawkins. And honestly, I respect that. These two aren't just partners. They're brothers. And let's not ignore the fact that Dawkins himself has stepped up big time in the last couple years. He's got personality, he's got talent, He's no longer just the other guy in the team. That's why this title win feels earned. It's also a bit of a redemption story for them. After Bobby Lashley left WWE and went to AEW, the Street Profits were in limbo. They went from being part of a faction with Lashley to, well, floating around with no direction. It easily could have derailed them, but instead they stayed locked in, kept grinding, and now they're back where they belong. Now the big question is, what's next? DIY is definitely getting a rematch. That's just how it works in WWE. But beyond that, I love to see the Street Profits defend against the Motor City Machine Guns. That's a match that would absolutely be great if WWE gives them the time. The Machine Guns are veterans who know how to bring out the best in their opponents, and Montez and Dawkins, and thrive in that kind of matchup. All in all, that was a well-earned win for the Street Profits. They've been through a lot the last couple years, and now they got gold again, and hopefully WWE gives them a solid run instead of just using them as transitional champions. This is their moment. Let's see what they do with it. All right, let's go over Monday Night Raw, and, we gotta talk about the John Cena promo. And John Cena completely disowned the fans. Wow. I can't believe that I witnessed that. Cena's promo on Raw was hands down one of the most emotionally charged, scorching promos that I've ever seen in professional wrestling. We all wondered for years what a John Cena heel turn would look like. And let me tell you, this wasn't just a turn. This was a full-blown breakdown of everything we thought we knew about John Cena. This man torched the fans, disowned them, called them toxic. But the part that really got to me, Cena saying that his relationship with the fans had been abusive. That he's been in an abusive relationship. Just think about that for a second. Cena, who built his entire legacy on never giving up on the fans, no matter how much they booed him, just washed his hands of them entirely. And the wildest part, he straight up singled out a kid in the audience and called him toxic. A kid. But when we get to the full moment of the night, Cena, standing in the middle of the ring, going into full pissed-off ex-boyfriend mode, mocking the fans with that, "What do we get?" rant. And then he hits them with the dagger. "Not one of you sons of bitches asked me how I feel." Bro. That line hit. You felt it. The crowd felt it. Everyone watching at home felt it. And whether you agreed with him or not, you couldn't deny the raw emotion coming out of this man. Cena had the crowd hooked. They were booing him out of the building. They could not take their eyes off of him. He didn't stumble. He didn't hesitate. He fed off of their hate. And that's what makes this so jarring. But here's the thing. Cena didn't change anything about himself. Same exact entrance music. Same bright colored t-shirt. Same damn jorts. This isn't some edgy new version of Cena with a darker persona. He's not out here with a new theme song or a black leather jacket like Hollywood Rock. No, this is the same John Cena we've always known. Except now, he's just letting his real thoughts fly. And I love that. For years, I always thought if Cena ever turned heel, he shouldn't change anything about his look. Instead, he should turn everything back on the fans. Make them the villains in his story. In his mind, he never changed. The fans just stopped appreciating him, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Then, Cue Cody Rhodes. If there was anyone who needed to step up and shut Cena down, it was Cody. And man, Cody's reaction said it all. He walked out there, looked Cena dead in his eyes, and just shook his head like he didn't even recognize the guy anymore. And then he hit him with that perfect line, "Who the hell are you?" That right there, gold. Because Cody wasn't just mad, he was disappointed. He wasn't seeing a legend in front of him. He was seeing a man he once respected, throwing everything away, and then he delivered the ultimate mic drop. Go find John Cena, because that's who I want to face at WrestleMania. Not this whiny bitch. Oh, man. Yeah, that was the moment. That was the line that took this from great to next level, and the crowd ate it up. The tension was palpable. This wasn't just a match anymore. This is now personal. This feud is officially white hot, heading into WrestleMania. Cena's heel turn is already delivering in every way I hoped it would. But now the big question is, does Cena change anything moving forward? Does he double down and keep the same appearance, the same mannerisms? Or does he slowly start morphing into something even darker? Now, let's not forget, we're only a few weeks away from that London Raw at the O2. You know The Rock is showing up soon. You know things are about to escalate even further. We are witnessing one of the biggest heel turns in WWE history, and I'm all in. Cena is finally giving us something different, and Cody Rhodes is the perfect guy to stand opposite him. This feud is must-see TV, and next week can't come soon enough. All right, let's talk about this contract signing between Io Sky and Bianca Belair for the WWE Women's World Championship at WrestleMania. And look, I got to start with this. The contract signings in wrestling are so overdone. Like, do we really need to keep doing these? Every time they roll out that table, bring out Adam Pearce or whoever oversees these things, and have a wrestler sit down like this is some high-stakes boardroom negotiation. I just roll my eyes. We already know the match is happening, so why go through the motions? The only time a contract signing actually makes sense is if it's a major free agent who has verbally agreed to sign with WWE and they want to make it official in front of the fans to generate buzz. You know, that is a cool moment. Something that feels like it carries weight. But for a title match, come on. Just announce it and move on. Anyway, back to this one. The story here has been clear. Io Sky is standing up for herself as the champion. She's been treated like an afterthought, dismissed, overshadowed, and disrespected. Not just by Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, but by everyone focused on the larger Bianca and Rhea tension. We already know how I felt a few weeks ago when Rhea lost the title to Io. It made zero sense for Rhea to look as dumb as she did. Yeah, here we are. Still following that same logic. So we get to the contract signing. Bianca and Io both put pen to paper. And then, of course, here comes Rhea Ripley. And at this point, you just know where this is headed. Bianca and Rhea start arguing again. Io tries to step in to remind people, hey, I'm the actual champion here. And what happens? Bianca literally shoves Io's face away like she did last week. Disrespectful. Chaos erupts. Rhea Ripley overpowers both of them. And then she picks up the contract and signs her name on it. Now let's be real. We all know where this is going. WWE is clearly setting up a loophole here because Rhea signed her name on the contract. She'll be legally added to the WrestleMania match. It's classic WWE booking. Bend the rules just enough to make it work. And don't get me wrong, the match itself is going to be fire. Bianca Belair, Io Sky, and Rhea Ripley are three of the best women's wrestlers in the world. This is going to be a banger. But the way they've gotten to this point, not great. Io Sky, the actual champion, has been shoved into a story that was never about her. This entire build has revolved around Bianca and Rhea, and Io just happens to be holding the title that they both want. And that's the real issue here. Io deserved a story where she was the focal point, not someone who got caught in the crossfire of a Bianca and Rhea feud. And it's not Io's fault. She's phenomenal. But the way they've executed this has made her feel like a third wheel in her own championship match. At the end of the day, I have no doubt that these three are going to put on an incredible match at WrestleMania, but from a storytelling perspective, this ain't it. WWE took a messy route to get to what could have been a far better build.
It's time to dive into the latest news and rumors from around the pro wrestling industry. Some of it's fact, some of it's speculation, but we'll break it all down and separate what's real from what's just making headlines. Remember, if it's not confirmed, it's just a rumor. But that won't stop us from talking about it.
Yep, let's go to the news. Tyler Bate is finally on his way back to WWE, and honestly, it's about time. This guy is an incredible talent, one of those wrestlers who just makes everything look effortless in the ring. Before his injury, he and Pete Dunne were doing some solid work as a tag team, and it's a shame that momentum got cut short when Bate went down with that brutal torn pec. That kind of injury is no joke. But now that he's been cleared and set to return to Raw, the next question is, what's next for him? The natural move would be for Bate to reunite with Pete Dunne and pick up where they left off. They had something really good going, and WWE's tag team division could absolutely use a duo like them right now. But Dunne hasn't exactly been sitting around waiting. He's been mixing up with Penta and Ludwig Kaiser, and here's the key. Raw's World Tag Team Champions, the War Raiders. They need some serious challengers. And let me tell you, a War Raiders against Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne could be absolute chaos in the best possible way. Imagine the brutality of Dunne and Bates' technical, hard-hitting style going up against the sheer power and dominance of the War Raiders. You've got the perfect mix of finesse, speed, and high-impact brawling that could make for a show-stealing match if given the right amount of time. So the timing of Tyler Bates' return couldn't be any better, and WWE has a golden opportunity here. Bate and Dunne could easily be one of the best teams in the company if booked correctly. All right, Rob Van Dam had an interesting viewpoint on wrestler retirements on his one-of-a-kind podcast. Rob Van Dam spoke on why he feels wrestling retirements are meaningless. He said, and I quote, "I don't think I'm retired. I don't think I will retire. That's how I feel right now. I feel like even if I don't take wrestling bookings anymore, I won't make a big deal out of retirement. Because when wrestlers retire, they often end up coming back anyway, saying, no, I want one more match. They are meaningless. For me, that completely ruins the credibility of wrestling retirement matches. I doubt that I'll ever feel like, no, I'm going to be different. I never want to wrestle again. I'm done. I just see myself going with the flow And someday, if you ask, are you still wrestling? I might say it's been 6 years, and then I still might have a match. But yeah, Rob Van Dam is absolutely right. Wrestling retirements don't mean anything anymore. At this point, a retirement announcement in wrestling might as well come with an asterisk because, let's be honest, it's usually just a matter of when, not if, a wrestler makes their comeback. Just look at history. Ric Flair had his emotional send-off at WrestleMania 24, only to wrestle again. Shawn Michaels retired in one of the most heartfelt moments in WWE history, and then Saudi money got him back in the ring 8 years later. CM Punk walked away for nearly a decade, swore up and down that he was done with wrestling, and now he's back in WWE. Then you've got Edge, Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, and Saraya, who all had what seemed like legitimate retirements due to medical reasons, but still made shocking comebacks. It happens over and over again. Why? Because wrestling at its core is not like traditional sports. In the NFL, the NBA, or any other major league, younger talent is constantly coming in and forcing the veterans out. There's a natural cycle. Older players retire because they physically can't keep up with the younger generation. But in wrestling, that cycle doesn't exist in the same way. There's no league mandate saying, hey, you're 40, time to step aside. Instead, the system, especially WWE system, has been built in a way that relies on nostalgia, and the same handful of big names come back over and over again. And let's be real, a huge reason for that was Vince McMahon's inability or refusal to fully commit to building new stars. For decades, WWE had a serious issue with making long-term stars who could actually carry the company forward. They tried with guys like Roman Reigns, but it took years for fans to buy in. For every success story, there are a dozen others. Guys like Dolph Ziggler, Kofi Kingston, or even Drew McIntyre, who were briefly pushed to the top, only to be cast aside when WWE needed to bring back a John Cena or Brock Lesnar to pop a rating. Now, since Triple H took over booking after Vince McMahon's departure, we have seen improvement in that area. He's been making an effort to build younger talent like Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes, and that's great to see. But at the same time, he's still leaning on veteran names. Guys like The Miz and Sheamus are still around, and while that's fine, there needs to be a real effort to transition them into a different role. Whether that's putting younger talent over consistently or moving toward a post-in-ring career. At some point, they have to stop being relied on as active competitors at the expense of fresh faces. That's why wrestlers don't stay retired. If the business truly evolved and didn't constantly lean on past stars, guys like Goldberg, Undertaker, and Triple H himself wouldn't have kept making returns well in their 50s. The product would have already moved forward. And instead, we get this weird cycle where legends retire only to come back when WWE needs a boost or when they themselves feel like they have one more match left in them. And honestly, can you blame them? Wrestling is addictive. The pop of the crowd, the adrenaline rush, the love of performing, it's not easy to walk away from. Plus, financially, there's always going to be money and nostalgia. Promoters know that bringing back a legend will draw eyeballs, even if it hurts the long-term future of the product. So yeah, wrestling retirements are meaningless. And they probably always will be. As long as the industry stays stuck in this cycle of relying on past stars instead of fully committing to the future, we're going to keep seeing guys retire only to come back a few years later. It's just the nature of the business at this point. Lillian Garcia announced on Instagram, this was after SmackDown went off the air in Spain. She announced on Instagram that she is stepping down as SmackDown's full-time ring announcer. She posted the following on Instagram saying, "Just finished announcing SmackDown in Barcelona, Spain, and it was absolutely incredible. Gracias por todo el amor España." If I butchered that, I completely apologize. But anyways, but now I have some news that this was my last show as the full-time SmackDown announcer. A new era is upon us, but I will still be with the company as I will be announcing for all Saturday night's main event shows on NBC and Peacock, singing at certain special events, and currently working on other show ideas with WWE. WWE is my home, so stay tuned as a new chapter begins. I invite all of you to continue this journey with me as we share it together. Bottom line, thank you, and I love you dearly. Man, this is a bit of a bummer. Lillian Garcia stepping down as SmackDown's full-time ring announcer just feels like the end of yet another chapter in WWE's never-ending game of musical chairs when it comes to announcers. Lillian is iconic, next to Howard Finkel. She's easily one of the best voices to ever grace a WWE ring. When she came back last year, I was hyped. It felt like WWE was bringing back a true veteran voice that added legitimacy and that big fight feel to the shows. And now, just like that, she's out of the weekly mix. And here's the thing, I get it. Lillian isn't leaving WWE entirely. She's still going to be around for Saturday night's main event, singing at special events and working on other projects. That's cool. But it doesn't change the fact that WWE's ring announcer situation feels chaotic lately. Ever since Samantha Irvin left last year, it's been a revolving door. Now, I have mixed feelings about Samantha leaving. Phenomenal voice, amazing energy. But the way she left and some of her comments afterward didn't sit well with me, really. They replaced her by bringing back Lillian, then switched her and Alicia Taylor around, and now we're back to square one. Who's going to be the new full-time SmackDown announcer? My guess, Mike Rome. He's been holding down in NXT, and I wouldn't be surprised if WWE promotes him to SmackDown full-time. But here's where I have an issue. Mike Rome reminds me way too much of Justin Roberts, and I was never a fan of Roberts' style. That overly polished, almost robotic cadence just doesn't do it for me. It's like they're reading off of a teleprompter instead of feeling the moment. And look, I'm not saying every announcer has to be over-the-top hyped, but the best ones have presence. They know how to command attention, fire up a crowd, and make every introduction feel important. That's why I think WWE needs to focus on finding an announcer with a unique voice, solid presence, and the ability to electrify the crowd. Someone in the vein of a Michael Buffer or his brother Bruce Buffer. Those guys don't just announce names. They set the tone for the entire fight. Imagine WWE having a ring announcer that can instantly send chills down your spine just by the way they ring announce. That's what they should be aiming for. So yeah, I'm definitely going to miss Lillian on SmackDown. She brought class and authenticity to every show she was on, and I truly hope that WWE finds the right person to fill those shoes. And with that, guys, I'll conclude the podcast for this week. I'd like to thank you all for listening, as always. John Cena and Cody Rhodes under the same roof next week in Glasgow, Scotland for Raw. And here we're continuing on the road to WrestleMania. All right, I will talk to you guys very soon. Take care, and I'll see you, or I'll be talking. How am I going to see y'all? Now, if I was on video, then yeah, I would be able to, but I'm not. So yeah, I will talk to you all again very soon. Peace.